It's been an up and down year for small business owners, but there's reportedly some positive news as we head into the new year. The National Federation of Independent Businesses Optimism Index rose 1.8 points last month, the highest level since February. The survey also showed an increase in small business owners who expect sales to increase and those who are making plans to hire. The need to help small businesses was a political football in 2011, with President Obama pushing his small business jobs plan and supporting Small Business Saturday. His political opponents in the GMP have also raised issues affecting small business owners in debates running up to primary season. So what will 2012 bring for our entrepreneurial community? William Dunkelberg is the chief economist for the NFIB. Brian Hamilton is the co-founder and CEO of SageWorks, a company that develops software for financial professionals and small businesses. Brian Hecht is a serial new media entrepreneur. And Phil Town is an investment advisor and best-selling author. Great to see all of you.
Thank you.
All right, Bill, you have been here every year, I think, doing this with us at the end of the year. So I want to start with you also because we cited your survey. Optimism up 3 months in a row. In your crystal ball, do you expect this to continue next year?
Well, I think it will continue. As we look at the basics in the economy, we see that, either we're just getting used to bad news and so we're going to try to ignore it and move forward, or some good things are happening, and I think the latter is the case. So we did see an improvement in the optimism index, and in particular, inside of the index, the 10 components, 7 of them went up. Put some nice numbers in place. And as you cited, what was really good was on the job side. We had a nice increase in the percent of owners planning to create new jobs, that is, increase employment, and also the percent of owners with a hard-to-fill job opening, which means labor markets in parts of the country are tightening up, and that means the unemployment rate is going to go down. So we'll see, initial claims for unemployment will start to fade, and we will make some progress on that. And we also saw the capital spending up and plans up, and that's good. So the GDP numbers are looking a lot better now in the survey.
Phil, how do you think last year went, and what do you think is coming up for us next year?
I think last year was a mess. I think that uncertainty has become the new normal, and the result of that is that, or the cause of that, I think, is not just economic uncertainty, but this uncertainty that is created by massive federal government intervention. I think entrepreneurs are incredibly resilient. I mean, there's entrepreneurship in Cuba, okay? So we will always have small businesses, no matter how big the government gets and no matter how controlling. But what they have to realize is the impact of this stuff. There was a study done by the Kansas City Fed last year, found out that the entrepreneurs hired 6% less people than they would have if it wasn't for red tape, just red tape. That translates to 1 million jobs over the course of the year, $40 billion of lost revenue that the government could have collected taxes on. So what I'm seeing for next year is a continuation of this. As an investor, we're looking at the dangers of Europe affecting. No one knows what's going to happen to our banking system because of the European connections. And I think that's going to have a big impact. That uncertainty is going to continue. It's going to be the new normal.
Yeah, it's interesting. We always hear as uncertainties. I don't quite know what to do because I don't know the impact of what I'm going to do because I'm not sure about the taxes and regulations. Brian Hamilton, you also had some good news coming out in a survey that you guys did.
Yeah, guys, wait, hold the phone. Look at the last 12 months. Revenues are up. Profits are up. The facts are good. So attitudes, what's going to happen, it's all important, but let's look at what's actually happening out there. Private companies, 27 million of them, are growing right now. That's a fact over the last 12 months. So it's kind of missed in the media picture. We need to know what's actually happening. And according to our data, it's very strong.
And do you feel like that's going to continue into 2012?
Well, it's a great question. Over the last 200 years, we have found that for every 4 years of expansion, we have a downer year, right? So once those tides start to turn, they usually keep going. So we expect a good year. We really do.
Brian Hecht, you are sort of the quintessential entrepreneur. You have started and sold 3 businesses. Now, it's in the tech space, which is a little different than a lot of the other businesses and kind of booming right now. But what do you feel as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I feel, like Phil said, 2011 was a very messy year, marked by a lot of indecision. A lot of entrepreneurs I know are trying to decide, is it the time to grow or is it the time to pull back and preserve capital and make sure that we have enough cash in the bank if we have another bad year or another bad year. That said, entrepreneurs are always going to be biased towards growth. That's why we're entrepreneurs. So they're really looking for opportunities. And when the data begins to tip in our favor, we're really going to seize those opportunities. So 2012, I think, is going to be not a radical shift, but even just a subtle shift. Easier lending, easier raising capital, easier to stimulate a little bit of consumer demand. That could really switch things to be a growth year for 2012 for entrepreneurs.
You're raising your eyebrows.
Yeah,
You're raising your eyebrows, Bill, and Brian Hamilton is shaking his head.
I don't think we're going to be seeing easier lending. I think the banks are in big trouble. The regulations coming down on banks are incredibly restrictive. They're not able to lend to entrepreneurs like they used to, look them in the eye and say, sure, we'll make the deal, which means people in my business, which is Angel Capital, are going to be the go-to people for entrepreneurs. And that means they're going to have to step up their game. And we really should talk about that. And we do talk about that on this show all the time, is how to step your game up so you can get capital when capital isn't available, because I think that's what's coming in 2012.
And Brian Hamilton, when Brian Hecht was here talking about how he thinks things are getting a little better, you're shaking your head.
Well, look at the data. Right now, revenues are up. That's a fact. It's happening right now, guys. It's already tipping. Now, what's happening, the attitudes are now catching up to the data. But we've got to get that data out there. Things are not a mess right now. They're not. Revenues up for private companies about 6 to 7% across the board, across 1,400 industries. So it's not all gloom and doom, and we need to get that out there.
Hey, Bill, what do you think your small business owners need the most to keep their optimism up?
Well, we need customers. I mean, if you look at the optimism measures out there, of course, the University of Michigan Index for consumers is the worst we've seen since 1980. Not a great time. And even though we've had the NFIB index go up for 3 months now, it's still lower than it was in January. So not a lot of progress over the year. Uncertainty is a big issue. We did a special study of the Dun & Bradstreet firms that had fewer than 250 employees, and we found out on a 1 to 7 scale, 60% of the owners rated a 6 or 7 is uncertainty about business conditions, and over half of them attributed that to politics, what's going on in politics. And of course, that is important. We don't know what our tax rates are going to be just, in the next month or so. We don't know what's going to happen with health care. Will it be there at all? What will it cost us for employees? There are just so many things we don't know about. And then we hear about Europe. That's a scary thing. Not that we think, we'll be exactly like Athens, for example, but we know that our fiscal path is one that's similar to the ones that the sovereign governments over in Europe were following. So we need to get off of that. A nice settlement on something in Washington would be very helpful as well.
So we've got to end this conversation, but I want to end it with one thing from each of you. It's a political year next year. I mean, starting January, we're just going to be going full steam ahead. So if you had one thing to say to Washington, this is what small business owners need this year, what would it be? Brian Hamilton, I'll start with you.
What are you going to do? What are the taxes going to be? What policies are going to be in effect? Give me something that I can plan from. It's that simple. Now, whether that will happen, of course, it's anyone's question.
Yeah, this is our wish list.
Yeah.
Okay, Bill,
Clearly.
you?
Well, I second that statement, but I would add, please roll back the regulations to maybe where they were when Clinton was in office in 1999. Let's get the regulators out of our business and let us be free to do what we can do best.
Brian?
Without any specific policy prescriptions, I will say make it easy for small businesses to hire people. We have no capacity to handle a lot of bureaucracy. Make it easy. Everybody wins.
All right. And Bill, we will end with you.
I agree with that. It would be nice to have certainty, even if it's bad certainty. We would know what was going on. That would be very helpful. We'd like to see some of the regs in Dodd-Frank rolled back so the venture capitalists and the angel investors could more easily function to start these new firms that we like to see there. So less regulation across the board. Oh, my goodness, that would be really terrific. But also give us a way out of this fiscal mess that we're in so that we can believe in the future and not see grease coming our way.
All right. Well, I thank all four of you for your insight very much. I look forward to talking to you at the end of 2012 to see what comes of next year, and I hope to see you actually before then. Thanks so much, Brian Hamilton and Bill Dunkelberg, and you guys stick around.
Thanks, JJ.